All right, welcome in. I'm the Kodiak, and today I'm here to talk about what the Vikings should do in the draft. But before we get into it, leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're not already. Let's dive right into it. So, when I look at the Minnesota Vikings roster, it is clear that this team is only missing one thing and one thing only. Because if you remember going into last year, the question was, how's the defense going to perform? And it looks like getting rid of Ed Donatel was addition by subtraction, and bringing in Flores was great. And overall, I think their philosophy on the defensive side of the ball was a lot more resound. It was a lot better, and Ed Donatel proved that he was one of the worst defensive coordinators in the league in 2022. Imagine if you were able to combine the Vikings offense from 2022 and the Vikings defense from 2023, you'd have a really good football team. But the Vikings division is very competitive, and to be completely honest, last year what ended up letting the Vikings down, after Cousins got hurt, their offense was absolutely miserable. And I know they were starting a tandem of Josh Dobbs, who ended up playing pretty well. He ended up having kind of a surge in his NFL career last year, kind of had a breakout-ish year. Turns out towards the end of the year, he, kind of played as what he actually was. But he had a great season for a guy of his caliber, or probably one that he could have never even dreamt of. So I'm really happy for Josh Dobbs. But when you look at the other QBs on this roster, they were starting Nick Mullins, they were starting Jaron Hall. Very, very unexciting pieces at the quarterback position. So yeah, like I said, after Cousins got hurt, their team was miserable to watch offensively. They had absolutely zero run game. It was absolutely comical how talented Chandler was in comparison to everybody else in that room. Madison sucked. I don't even know if he's on a roster right now. I can't even remember if he's gotten picked up. And obviously, you have great skill position weapons. You have the best receiver in the game in Justin Jefferson. You have Jordan Addison, who's a great rookie. You have TJ Hawkinson, who tore his ACL in one of the last games of the season. So I don't know if he's actually going to be available for week 1 this year. But he will come back at some point, if I had to guess. So that's pretty good. And the overarching theme of what the Vikings are doing this year is if you are not going to have a quarterback, you do not have, this team pieced together by a quarterback, you're just going to be wasting talent. Because if you don't have someone to give Jefferson the ball, then he might not want to sign that extension. If you don't have a way to get Jordan Addison the ball and spread it out to TJ Hawkinson as well, then it's going to be tough. Teams are going to know exactly what you're going to do, and that's a big reason why the Vikings offense suffered at the end of last year. But in the grand scheme of things, they made a move for the Texans' first-round pick this year, which I believe was pick 24 or 23. And you do not make that move if you are the Vikings for anything other than ammo to go up for a quarterback, because there's a reason we rarely ever see pre-draft trades. It's because teams do not know who's readily going to be available. Teams do not know, how the board is going to shake out. And it could be drastically different from what we hear from analysts, and you really have no idea how the draft is going to shake out. You don't know what other teams are thinking. Yeah, obviously there's Vegas odds, and I think the community has actually done a pretty good job over recent years of knowing where teams are going to lean, and, that can be tipped by Vegas too, with odds and everything like that. But at the same time, you do not make that move if you're the Vikings for anything other than a trade up. So who is Kevin O'Connell going to covet in this draft? Who is Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah? Who is he going to target? And I think that they're going to trade up during the draft. I don't know how far they're going to trade up, but the reality is there's a lot of teams who are in a great position to move back. The Chargers at 5 are an example of this. The Giants at 6 are a good example of this. Tennessee is probably going to stay put at 7. The Falcons are also a great trade back candidate because they need defense. And to be completely honest, there's not a lot of value in taking, one of the first defensive players off the board at 8 rather than, the value of trading back and potentially getting something else. But at the same time, we saw that what happened with A.J. Terrell in 2020, and it remains to be seen that A.J. Terrell, when they stayed put, was a fantastic pick. So the Minnesota Vikings, who are they going to trade up with? I made a video on this channel a month ago saying that the Vikings were going to trade up in the draft for a quarterback. I'm not entirely sure who it's going to be, but here are some options. So you're not going to see Caleb Williams. You're probably not going to see Drake May, even though that's the one that the Vikings are rumored to be in love with. You're probably not going to see him. Jaden Daniels as well. So that leaves you with J.J. McCarthy as the one. And I'm not a big fan of J.J. McCarthy. There's multiple videos on my channel illustrating that I just don't think, what he offers is worth the payoff of where he's going to get drafted. Sure, I can respect the fact that NFL teams interview him. They're the ones who actually talk to him. But me, just looking at the film and based on everyone I trust, I would never draft J.J. McCarthy, not with a first-round pick at least. So the overarching point with the Vikings draft strategy is you can either wait until 11 and potentially run the risk of McCarthy not being there. Because I think the third tier of quarterbacks is all one cluster, although Nix is my favorite of the bunch. I do like what he brings. He wasn't just a deep ball or short check down 7. He actually had a legit deep ball. Very strong at throwing every sort of route. So I think that Bo Nix is going to be the guy available at 11 if they decide to stay put. And that's who I think they should draft if they do stay at 11. But you never know who's going to be available. And the Giants could really like J.J. McCarthy. They could say, hey, F you, up yours, Minnesota. We're going to stay put right here. And yeah, now as far as 23, they definitely need interior help. They definitely need help on the defensive line because they're set on O-line. Their O-line played phenomenally last year. So regarding what they are going to do defensively, I could see them going with one of the interior guys like Newton or Byron Murphy. Wouldn't it be funny if the Vikings had 2 Byron Murphys on their roster? All right, yeah, so that does it for me, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.